And now it's my great honor and pleasure to invite Congressman John R. Lewis to return to the podium to deliver today's commencement address.
Good morning. It's a beautiful morning. There's a sweet spirit in this place. I feel more than lucky, but very blessed and honored to be here. Chancellor, Madam Chair, Provost, to all of the members of the Board of Trustees, faculty members, family, friends, and to the class of 2013, I'm honored and delighted to be with you on your day, this special day. Enjoy it. I promise you. I told the Chancellor that I was going to be very brief. Because this is not my day. It's not about me. It is all about you. I will tell you a story or two. The Chancellor told you that I grew up in not a big city like New York or Atlanta or Chicago or Los Angeles or Detroit or Tel Aviv or Jerusalem, London or Paris. I grew up on a farm in rural Alabama, 50 miles from Montgomery, outside of a little place called Troy. My father was a sharecropper, yes, living on another person's land, working hard. But in 1944, when I was only 4 years old, and I do remember when I was 4. Now, how many of the graduates, how many of the professors remember when you were 4? What happened to the rest of us? My father had saved $300, and with the $300, he bought 110 acres of land. My family still own that land today. On this farm, we raised a lot of chickens and a lot of cows. But on this farm, it was my responsibility to care for the chickens. And I fell in love with raising chickens like no one else could raise chickens. I became very good at it. I thought it was my calling, my mission. As a little boy, I would take the fresh eggs, mark them with a pencil, place them under the setting hen, and wait for 3 long weeks for the little chicks to hatch. Some of the smart professors here, some of the smart students are now saying, now, John Lewis, why do you mark those fresh eggs with a pencil before you place them under the setting hen? Well, from time to time, another hen would get on that same nest, and there would be some more eggs. And you have to be able to tell the fresh eggs from the eggs that were already under the setting hen. Do you follow me? You don't follow me. It's okay. It's all right. When these little chicks were hatched, sometime I would put the chicks in a box with a lantern, raise them on their own, or give them to another hen, and get some more fresh eggs, mark them with a pencil, place them under the setting hen, and cut the setting hen and stone, and that's for another 3 weeks. When I look back on it, it was not the right thing to do. It was not the moral thing to do. It was not the most loving thing to do. It was not the most nonviolent thing to do. It was not the most democratic thing to do. But I just kept on cheating on these setting hens and fooling these setting hens. We used to get to Cicero bookstore, or any old enough to remember going to the Cicero bookstore and getting that catalog, that big thick book, maybe not here in these large urban centers. Big thick book, heavy. Some people call it the ordering book. Some people call it the wish book. I wish I had this, I wish I had that. I just kept wishing. I was never quite able to save $18.98 to order the most inexpensive incubator or hatcher from the Cicero bookstore, so I just kept on cheating on this setting. But as a young boy, as a young man, about 8 or 9 years old, I wanted to be a minister. I wanted to preach. So from time to time, with the help of my brothers and sisters and my first cousins, we would gather all of our chickens together in the chicken yard. And the chickens, along with my brothers and sisters and cousins, would help make up the audience, the congregation. And I would start speaking or preaching, and when I look back on it, some of these chickens would bow their heads. Some of these chickens would shake their heads. They never quite said amen. But I'm convinced that some of those chickens that I preached to during the 40s and the 50s tended to listen to me much better than some of my colleagues listen to me today in the Congress. As a matter of fact, some of those chickens were just a little more productive. At least they produce eggs. Well, that's enough of that. When we would visit the little town of Troy, visit Montgomery, visit Tuskegee, visit Birmingham, I saw those signs that said white men, white women, colored women, white waiting, colored waiting. I would come home and ask my mother, my father, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, why? They would say, that's the way it is. Don't get in the way, don't get in trouble. But one day in 1955, 15 years old in the 10th grade, I heard about Rosa Parks. I heard the words of Martin Luther King Jr. on the old radio, and I was deeply inspired to find a way to get in the way. I got in trouble, good trouble, necessary trouble. So I want to say to you who are leaving this unbelievable institution, leaving these holy grounds, you must go out and find a way to get in trouble, good trouble, necessary trouble. You must play a role in helping to make our country, helping to make our world a better place. Another generation of students, professors, rabbis, ministers, priests, and nuns stood up. They became headlights rather than taillights. They put their bodies on the line for the cause of justice and fairness. The beloved Abraham Joshua came to Selma and walked across the Edmund Pettus Bridge with us on March 21st, 1965. And in my Washington office, every day that I'm in that office, I see that photograph of Martin Luther King Jr. and Rabbi Herschel walking together. I'm not suggesting that you get in the type of trouble that my generation got in. But you have an obligation, a mission and a mandate to stand up for what is fair, for what is right, for what is just. You must speak up and speak out. In spite of all of our progress in America, in spite of all of the progress around the world, there's still too much hate, too much violence, bitterness, and separation. We have an obligation to play a role in bringing people together to create the beloved community. In the final analysis, we are one people, one family, one house. We all live in the same house. Not just the American house, but the world house. When I was young, had all of my hair, and a few pounds later, I met so many young people, the Jewish community. One of my closest and dearest friends was from Forest Hill, who came south. A wonderful photographer. We shared a little apartment in Atlanta for more than 2 years. Some of the great photographs that we see of the civil rights movement was taken by this young man, Daniel Lowndes. There were others, in addition to Rabbi Husher, many rabbis, many members of the Jewish community. And for the young people here, the young graduates, you must never forget that next year, 50 years ago, two young Jewish students, two young Jewish New Yorkers, Andy Goodman, Micah Schreiner, came to the state of Mississippi and joined with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, MVCOR, and others. And on a Sunday night, June 21st, 1964, these three young men, James Chaney with Goodman and Schreiner, went out to investigate the burning of an African-American church. These three young men, detained by the sheriff, taken to jail. Later taken out of jail, turned over to the Klan, where they were beaten, shot, and killed. I said to you, seminary, I said to the parents and friends, to each and every one of you, these three young men didn't die in Vietnam, they didn't die in the Middle East or Eastern Europe, in Africa or Central or South America. They died right here in our own country, trying to get all of our citizens to become participants in the democratic process. Back in 1964, in the state of Mississippi, the state had a black voting age population of more than 450,000, but only 16,000 were registered to vote. There were some counties in the state of Alabama where the county was 50 and 60, 80% African American, but not a single registered voter. And we had to change that. So I said to you graduates, never give up, never give in, don't get lost in a sea of despair, keep the faith, and move your feet. Speak with action. I'm honored to be honored with these unbelievable honorees today. I do not feel worthy, Chancellor. We've come a distance. We made a lot of progress, but we still must move on. I will tell one little story to try to make the point. When I was growing up outside of Troy, Alabama, 50 miles from Montgomery on that farm, I had an aunt by the name of Seneva. And my Aunt Seneva lived in what we call a shotgun house. I know here in New York, in our large urban centers in America and around the world, you've never seen a shotgun house. You don't even know what I'm talking about. My Aunt Seneva didn't have a green manicured lawn, had a simple, plain dirt yard. And sometime at night, you can look up through the holes in the ceilings, through the holes in the tin roof, and count the stars. When it would rain, she would get a pail, a bucket, or a tub and catch the rainwater. From time to time, she would walk out into the woods and cut branches from a dogwood tree and make a broom, and she called that broom the brush broom. For those of you that are so young, and maybe some others that never lived in the rural South, let me tell you what a shotgun house looked like. In the nonviolent sense, old house, one way in, one way out, where you can bounce a basketball through the front door and it would go straight out the back door. But one Saturday afternoon, a few of my brothers and sisters and cousins were out playing in my Aunt Seneva dirt yard, and an unbelievable storm came up. The wind started blowing, the thunder started rolling, the lightning started flashing, and the rain started beating on the tin roof of this old shotgun house. And my aunt became terrified. She cried and she cried. She thought this old house was going to blow away. She got all of us, the children, together and told us to hold hands, and we did as we were told. When one corner of this old house appeared to be lifted, she had us to walk to that corner to try to hold the house down with our bodies. When the other corner appeared to be lifted, she had us to walk to that side. We were little children walking with the wind, but we never, ever left the house. Those of you that are graduating today must stay with the Jewish Theological Seminary. Stay with your faith and walk with the wind and help build one house. It doesn't matter whether we're black or white, Latino, Asian American, or Native American, whether we're Protestant, Catholic, or Jewish, we're one people, we're one family, we're one house. Not just the American house, but the world house. And all of us must play our role and play our part in putting an end to bigotry and anti-Semitism and create a world at peace with itself. That is your calling. That's what you must stand up and fight for. Just go out there and get in the way and make good trouble. Thank you very much.